Hey wrestling fans, we're witnessing the most violent implosion of power dynamics in WWE storytelling, and it all comes down to one fundamental truth that Jacob Fatu just made impossible to ignore: the Bloodline's carefully constructed hierarchy doesn't actually exist anymore, and Solo Sikoa's reign as the face of the faction was built on borrowed authority that finally expired in the most devastating way possible. If you haven't already, please subscribe to WWE Express and ring the notification bell, because we're about to break down exactly how a faction that once seemed untouchable is tearing itself apart from the inside, and will never look at the Bloodline the same way again. When Solo Sikoa inherited the mantle of leadership from Roman Reigns, there was always a fundamental instability beneath the surface. Sure, he had the family name, the heritage, the connection to one of the greatest factions in modern wrestling history. But here's the thing that nobody wants to admit out loud: Solo Sikoa's authority was always contingent. He was the leader only because Roman Reigns stepped back, not because he had earned the complete respect of every member standing beside him. You can have dominance without legitimacy for a while, but eventually that rubber band snaps, and when it does, the entire structure comes crashing down. Jacob Fatu represents something that Solo Sikoa could never truly control. He's not motivated by the same tribal structure that binds the Bloodline together. Jacob Fatu is motivated by chaos, by violence, by the pure primal need to prove that he's the strongest predator in the room. And that distinction is absolutely critical to understanding why his attack on Solo Sikoa wasn't just a moment of betrayal, it was a moment of revelation. It showed us that within the Bloodline, there are competing definitions of what power actually means. Solo Sikoa's power was always political. It was about command, about the ability to direct other members, about wielding authority that came from organizational position. Jacob Fatu's power is completely different. It's physical, it's genuine, it's something that cannot be delegated or inherited. When Jacob Fatu takes Solo Sikoa down, he's not just winning a match or a confrontation. He's fundamentally challenging the entire premise of Solo's leadership. He's saying that organizational authority means nothing when it comes face to face with raw, undeniable physicality. The hierarchy that once seemed so clean has now become impossibly fractured. You had Paul Heyman as the mouthpiece, positioning himself as the voice of the faction while actually serving as the invisible architect of Bloodline strategy. You had Roman Reigns as the spiritual leader, the foundation upon which everything else was built. You had Solo Sikoa attempting to centralize authority while maintaining the legacy. And then you had Jacob Fatu and Obafemi representing the next generation, the physical force that could either strengthen or completely destabilize the entire operation depending on how they were managed. The problem is that you cannot manage Jacob Fatu. That's the entire point. He's not interested in being managed. He's interested in being unleashed. And when you unleash someone that powerful within a structure that depends on hierarchy and order, the entire structure has to fundamentally reorganize itself or it collapses. Solo Sikoa learned this lesson the hard way, and the Bloodline will never be the same because of it. What makes this moment so narratively significant is that it comes at a time when the Bloodline's internal cohesion is already being tested from every angle. You've got Obafemi rising as a genuine main event threat, someone who doesn't need the Bloodline to justify his position anymore. You've got the looming question of whether Roman Reigns will eventually reclaim his leadership role. You've got the reality that Paul Heyman's influence, while substantial, is becoming less effective at controlling the younger members of the faction who see the game differently than the previous generation did. Jacob Fatu destroying Solo Sikoa isn't just a physical statement. It's an existential challenge to the entire organizational structure of the Bloodline. It's saying that the next era of this faction will be defined by something different than what came before. It's saying that loyalty, heritage, and family connections are not sufficient to maintain control when someone is willing to reject the entire framework and operate by a completely different set of rules. The Bloodline was always strongest when it operated as a unified force, when every member understood their role and executed it with precision. But unity requires buy-in from every single member. Once you have someone like Jacob Fatu who fundamentally doesn't care about the organizational structure and is willing to violently reject the established hierarchy, the entire dynamic shifts. The faction becomes not a cohesive unit but a collection of competing interests that happen to share a family name. This is where the storytelling gets genuinely fascinating. Does the Bloodline attempt to punish Jacob Fatu for his betrayal? Do they try to reassert control and restore the hierarchy that Solo Sikoa represented? Or do they accept the new reality and allow the faction to reorganize itself around Jacob Fatu's emergence as an undeniable force? Each of those paths leads to completely different outcomes for where the Bloodline goes next. What we're really watching is the birth of a new Bloodline era, one that hasn't been fully defined yet but is absolutely being shaped by Jacob Fatu's willingness to take Solo Sikoa down and prove that organizational authority means nothing when confronted with pure, devastating physical superiority. The civil war within the Bloodline isn't just about who gets to lead. It's about what leadership actually means in an organization that has always been built on a foundation of violence and dominance. Solo Sikoa's defeat isn't the end of this story. It's the beginning of something completely new. And we're just starting to understand how fundamentally this changes everything we thought we knew about the Bloodline's direction. Thank you for watching WWE Express, and if you want to stay updated on how this Bloodline saga continues to unfold, please subscribe to WWE Express right now. We'll be here breaking down every chapter of this story as it develops.